Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Box Score Network waiver show. I'm Peyton. This is my brother Parker, and we are of two peas on a pod. If you listen to our show, we love fantasy football, and our job this year is we are going to be bringing you on Tuesdays our waiver picks so that you can get them in whenever your fantasy leagues have waivers run, and hopefully we can help you guys win some fantasy leagues with some of these picks. The way that we're going to be doing this throughout the season is we have our three categories of players. We have burners, we have mids, and then we have stashes. And the idea is that we're going to categorize these so that you know how important these type of players are for fantasy as you're inputting your waiver claims, whether it's waiver order or whether it's fab leagues that you're bidding on these players to get them on your team. Now, Parker, this was not a huge waiver week, but I do think there's a few guys that are going to probably be important throughout the season as far as guys you can actually play, whether it be in the short term or a couple that might even be like long-term plays throughout the season. I don't know if did you have any burners this week by chance or no?
I have one.
I also have one.
His name is Justin Fields.
Okay, Justin Fields was not on my burner list, so I would love to hear you talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's just a list of quarterbacks, fantasy wise, that I'd rather have. Just like Justin Fields is now higher than Kyler Murray for me, being in an
Agreed.
offense like this in fantasy. Uh, Joe's, blah, 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 I apologize. Justin Fields is now higher than Bo Nix, who's drafted very high this year. Justin Fields is higher than Justin Herbert for me at this point. Like the run game that he is going to have with this Jets offense, and he doesn't look bad throwing the ball. I see that being a plus. If you're holding any of those quarterbacks I just listed, go get Justin Fields. I think he's a very viable fantasy guy when it comes to getting your team points and being probably one of the better waiver pickups if he's available in your league.
I could agree with that. I mean, it's one of those situations where Justin Fields, if he's starting, has been a really good fantasy quarterback his whole
Hmm.
time in the NFL. And so for the purposes of this, I think we got the news that Brock Purdy might miss a week, right? I
Right.
think that it's arguable that you might just be able to pick up Justin Fields and he might be your starter over Brock Purdy rest of the season. You
Right.
know, um, so and that's the kind of situation that I would probably spend a little bit more in Fab. Like I think theoretically speaking, depending on how deep your league is, right, you could probably get away with spending like 15% of your Fab on Justin Fields. Maybe a little bit more because quarterbacks typically aren't garnered on every single team, right?
Well, here's the thing too. Like, let's say you go pick up Justin Fields, and Justin Fields ends up being a top 10 fantasy QB, and you own Brock Purdy, right? And Brock Purdy ends up being fine, and by week, 5 or 6, he has it figured out. Well, now there's a team that's looking for a Justin Fields to make a playoff push or to be a playoff level team because they're out here having to bounce off quarterbacks in the pickups, or they're starting a quarterback like Jared Goff who's just not getting anything done or something like that. I just think that Justin Fields becomes valuable later in the season. He's not a stash for me though because he can start for your team now.
Right, right. I think that's a good pick for this first week. I think he's really truly the only burner because of his top 10 potential at
Hmm.
his position. And
Right,
and you just being able to pick him up and kind of like set him and forget him in most weeks, right?
right.
Um I contemplated having a burner, but there's really two guys that I have in the mid category.
Me as well.
I didn't have a burner this week. The first one I have is Dylan Sampson, running back for the Cleveland Browns. And this is more of a situation where, like, in fantasy football, running backs, like, you're just always going to need them in some form or facet. Like, running backs are just always valuable. And whether it means that, like, you're trying to avoid having to run into fighting for a backup because of an injury you have, like, you can go ahead and grab this guy off of waivers because first off, he's only rostered in like 52% of leagues. So, um, the reason why I think he's a good pickup, and I think most people might see this as fool's gold with Quinshon Judkins coming back, right? But if you looked at Dylan Sampson's stat line, it was 93 total scrimmage yards. Okay.
Hmm.
He had 29 rushing yards and 12 carries, which is not why I'm interested in him. I'm interested in him because he had 8 receptions on 8 targets for 64 yards. And Quinshon Judkins is not a receiving back. And
Nope.
this team is going to be losing a lot of games. And I'm expecting Dylan Sampson to probably be in on those pass catching downs, right?
Well, I mean, let's be real. Like Jerry Judy didn't look good this week,
No.
and Joe Flacco checks down a lot,
Yes.
and he's going to
Correct.
have to check down a lot. And that this is just where that guy is going to be your bread and butter if you pick this guy up
Right. This is the
and
kind of
decide to
guy
use him.
like if you have like Isaiah Pacheco on your team,
Hmm.
right?
That's
You're
me.
not feeling too good about your running back two position. I think you could, if you don't have really any other guys of that you're confident in that you could just sub in for Pacheco. I think it would be worth probably spending like 15% of your fab on Samson because you're going to be able to flex him or like put him in as a like RB2 if you really need to for the rest of the season because he's going to be game script proofed. And the thing is his role is not going to change once Judkins comes into the fold because right now that role is going to be the people who are going to lose in that role are Jerome Ford and Rocket Sanders, who were like doing a lot of the between the carry stuff. I wouldn't burn my priority on him by any means if you're like a waiver order type of league, but let's just say you have like the third priority or something like that. Maybe I would because it's really dependent upon how desperate I am for a running back. But it's not very often that you see a running back have like a solidified role in the offense to where he has some kind of baseline. And the Browns are just so bad that they are going to have to pass the ball. That's the whole reason why I like him. Parker, who's one of your second picks for this week?
So I'm gonna go with a guy that's on an offense that seems to be throwing the ball a lot more than people might have expected, and that's Quentin Johnson with the Chargers. Sounds crazy. He now that he's not so relied on, I feel like this will benefit him plenty because he's not gonna get the volume that you might expect out of a guy, but he's gonna make those catches count. I believe. I think that he's gonna be a guy that's a big play guy for the Chargers. He's gonna be a guy that, and I put him as a mid. He's probably a stash for me. I think this is more of a stash type player because in 3 weeks, Quentin Johnson could become valuable to be a possible flex starter when it comes to bye week season. Those week 5 through week 9, it gets brutal there with a couple weeks. So if you really need a guy that's going to get you 7 to 10 in your flex just to get by, he could be one of those guys that does so. Now, spending fab, doing all that, I don't know if I'd blow a lot of money on this guy, but just a guy to pick up, put on your bench, see how he does throughout the season. I don't hate it.
In a fab league, I probably wouldn't go more than like maybe 10% is probably even generous, only because like my worry with Quinn Johnson is a lot of his points came from those two touchdowns, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying that he's not going to ever catch a touchdown again, but because there's plenty of players like throughout NFL history where in fantasy history where their production is lifted up by touchdowns, right?
Right.
My worry is that he was third in targets on the team, I believe. And
Hmm.
whenever you're like the third or like the third leading target getter in the offense, and granted, a lot of passes were had in that game by Justin Herbert. I worry about the consistency to the point where like I wonder how often you're going to know when to play him. And it may be just a situation like you said where you kind of like keep him away, you play him really in like the really beneficial matchups where it's going to be a high scoring game and it's going to be a little pass happy. Um, but that's kind of like the only reason why I didn't include him in mine is because I was a little worried about like when am I really going to be confident in playing Quentin Johnson? Granted, it's early in the season, but like from what we've seen with Quentin Johnson, he's typically not the type player that you're like, I know exactly when I'm going to be able to play him.
Right.
So, I did have another wide receiver though, as far as my next pick in the mid category. Some people would probably put him in the burner depending on like how desperate you are for a wide receiver, but it's Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown rostered in only 31% of leagues right now. He is very clearly like if Xavier Worthy is not going to be fully healthy for the next few weeks, and Rashee Rice obviously is not coming back anytime soon. Hollywood Brown had 16 targets and caught 10 of them. He should have caught like 13 of them because he had a couple balls he just outright dropped, right?
Right.
99 yards receiving, no touchdown. And if you just need a guy who's going to be a solid flex every week for at least the next 4 weeks, he's your guy.
I mean, he got 16 targets.
Yeah. Like
Like
that.
this is
What
like
else do I need
this
to
is
say?
like even if he doesn't score touchdowns, this is like Deontay Johnson
Correct.
like style pickup right here. Like this is like a
Correct.
guy that's just gonna Patrick Mahomes is gonna need him for a lot of first downs
Yeah.
because Travis Kelsey isn't as easy to get open as he used to be.
Now the only issue is that like there's kind of like a limited shelf life probably on this type of production. Like he's not going to get 16 targets once Rashi and Xavier Worthy are back.
Which
But
is why he might not be a burner. This might just be why he is
right,
maybe you put him in the midsection because he's gonna be productive until those guys come back and then it's like okay, well, how involved will Hollywood Brown be
right.
when this happens? So he was actually the third on my list too. So now there's a guy I can mention if you want me to. More of a stash kind of guy.
I have a stash too as well. So go ahead and
Uh,
mention your stash.
Calvin Austin.
That's a great stash. Great
So
stash.
this is the reason why. Number one, Aaron Rodgers is spreading the ball around.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing Brent Skronik score. We're seeing
Yeah.
DK Metcalf get the ball a little bit. Jalen Warren doing it out of the backfield. Calvin Austin, the third, I should say. He's getting the ball too. And there's not DK is on paper the number one receiver. I don't think there's a number one receiver for Aaron though. Like when Aaron was with the Jets, like it just came out
I
that
know what
Aaron
you
was
mean.
calling secret plays with Devontae. You know,
Yep.
he was like going, "Hey, this is my guy." I don't think Aaron has one of those in Pittsburgh, which makes this guy a little more valuable because he's more of a gadget guy than DK can be, and he's just as much of a deep ball threat because of his speed. So not necessarily his size, but he can break away, and
But
I
he weirdly is like good in contested catches too, despite him
and
being smaller.
if I don't, I know he did last year. He returns, right?
Yes. Yes,
He's
he
also a
does.
returner. So if your league gives you a little bit of return yardage, he's going to help in that way some, you know.
Right.
So I think this is a great stash kind of player. See how it plays out the next couple weeks. If Aaron's targeted him like he did in week one, this is a guy that you can flex without a
Right.
problem.
It wasn't like a heavy target volume, but it was more about like when he targeted him, it was very clearly like, oh, okay, this might be a scoring opportunity. This might be, like that
And
kind of deal where if
and
he's
it looked drawn up for him
right,
as well.
that's
It was
that's
like,
kind of
yo,
the
this
thing.
play is not for
It's
DK.
for
This
Calvin. Right.
right, exactly.
Um, good stash. My stash is probably a little deeper, and this one is more like I don't know that you're going to use this guy really next week or anything. But Harold Fannin Jr.
Mhm.
And this is a dude I love coming out of college, coming out of Bowling Green. And if you go back, I think of all the box score guys, whenever we were doing our draft coverage, I was the highest on him, and I still can't shut up about him. He's only rostered in 6% of leagues, okay? And you even said it with the Dylan Sampson. This is very much kind of like the Dylan Sampson logic, where they're going to be losing a lot of games, and they're going to be passing the ball a lot to these short areas, right?
Right.
David Njoku did not have a ton of work in this game. Like he had a little bit, but Harold Fannin Jr. out targeted him and out produced him in the passing game as a rookie tight end. And so to me, Harold Fannin 7 for 9 for 63 yards. He even had a carry for 3 yards, which I'm not going to put a ton of emphasis on that, but it's more of like clearly they have a plan for this dude in the offense. Like they want to use him in a few different ways. Like if they're designing handoffs for him whenever they have 3 other running backs right now, there's clearly a plan for this guy. And he was pretty effective, like in the passing game. Like it kind of when he caught the ball, he popped out a little bit on the screen from an athleticism standpoint. He never had like these super explosive plays, but it was like every time he caught the ball, he was getting a few yards after the catch. So
Mhm.
it wasn't like just catch the ball and stop and whatever, he just finds the open space. He was doing stuff with the ball in his hands. And so to me, if David Njoku, which I don't expect him to not be I don't expect Harold Fannin to outscore David Njoku. Okay.
Right.
Let's just say David Njoku kind of gets injured, or like maybe he's not as involved as we've seen him, right?
Right.
Harold Fannin is a situation where if you really need a because tight end is tough, right? In
Right.
general. Let's say you have George Kittle, right?
Mhm.
Fannin might not be the worst kind of like if you just need a dude who is going to be involved in the offense and like just get some targets. He's not a worst pickup.
Well, here's another thing too, and like you'll never start this guy over this guy, I don't think. But let's say Mark Andrews isn't that involved
Right?
in 3 weeks, and you're like, man, I spent a first or not a first, I spent a fifth round pick on
Fifth
Mark
or sixth
Andrews,
round, right?
yeah, and he's not doing what I need him to do,
Right.
or Brock Bowers. Like if you need a quick fix for Brock Bowers till Brock Bowers comes back, I think this is a good pickup, and it's a good mention on a stash.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to find like stashes truly, especially like this early in the season, but it does seem like he's probably going to be involved enough in the Cleveland offense where you can at least play him in a desperate situation. So
Hmm.
that is all I have for this week's waiver show. Good first show for us, Parker. Looking
Yeah.
forward to hopefully helping. I'm looking forward to see if these guys truly do end up being productive in the coming weeks. I'll be interested to see if you or myself get any of these guys on waivers. And yeah, that's all we have for the first waiver show. Do you have anything else to close us out with?
Yeah, just two quick things. One, let's go ahead and plug us. We are Two Peas on a Pod. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Two Peas Show, TWOP Show. And then last thing I'll say is if you're fantasy guys and you're looking at our waiver wire video here, make sure you check out two other videos. You have the Tricky 50. They do their fantasy stuff every week with Tricky Takes Pod. And me, Ben, and Austin are also doing, with Ben with Autumn Favorites, we are doing a fantasy start and sit 'em every week. Just kind of like looking down the list of all these guys that we're probably talking about flexing or not flexing. Guys that are on the cusp so that you should be starting or sitting. We go over that every right before Sunday. I think it comes out on Sunday mornings before game time. So yeah, those are the two things I wanted to plug, and we'll catch you guys next week on the Waiver Wire Show.